Hello, and welcome to the North Carolina Museum of History and the 25th Annual American Indian Heritage Celebration. Our presenter, Brian Lynch, will begin in just a moment, but we want to start with a few notes. Remember to ask questions in the chat, and we'll do our best to respond to them and share with our presenter. We have many additional resources about American Indians in North Carolina on our website, nc-aihc.com. We thank the following sponsors of the North Carolina Museum of History Foundation helping to make this event possible. Now let's get started. Welcome, Brian. What are you sharing with us today?
Well, a number of things. I'd like to know what's on someone's mind to get me started.
Well, we'll start with a question right off the bat. How did you learn to work with silver?
I learned from a friend of the family who, at the time, I was doing a lot of, I was known within our people of doing beadwork, leatherwork, and featherwork. And he thought that I would do well in doing silver. So he introduced me to it, and I kept on going with it, and it's actually done well for me. I stay very busy at what I do. We travel a lot, and I've just tried to be creative, and I try to, I guess, basically take anything that's in my head. I try to get it out. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but in other words, my mind is always rolling on different designs or what to do with certain things. Like, just like, for example, I'm just looking around and I'm looking at this pink conch shell here, and it just made me think of when someone came to me one time and brought me this shell and wanted me to make them a pair of earrings, and they wanted me to cut the discs out here and drill some holes in them to make sort of like this to make some earrings. And so when I got all the earrings out of it, the only thing I had left were pieces that I didn't know what to do with. So in turn, I started cutting it up, and I actually do pretty well with doing shell work. And these are some of the items that I produced from that, the pink conch shell. That's just an example of what's in my head sometimes when I see things laying around or different things, just ideas,
What kind of tools would you use to remove pieces of the shell to make earrings?
Well, most of the time with that, you use what, as most people would call a wet tile saw, like a diamond blade saw. And that's what I use. It's actually a jeweler saw that's cut with water. It reduces the dust, and also the water keeps it cool, because if it gets hot, it breaks easily,
And how old were you when you first started making jewelry and artwork?
I was around 33 years old, as far as, starting jewelry. But early on, I think I was doing, being creative and doing other things around 10, 11 years old.
So what types of materials do you like to use? Obviously shell and silver. What kinds of stones and other materials do you like to use?
The most favorite I like using is wampum. It's the clamshell, which is, traditional here on the East Coast. And normally a lot of the things here that I use from that, I don't know, you get a lot of different things from it, because once you grind the calcium off here, this is the color you see. And actually you can produce a lot of nice jewelry with it, as far as bracelets, different types of bracelets. I'm sorry. Different types of bracelets. You can make pendants, necklaces, sort of like this. I mean, it's just, I don't know, it's something about it. It's almost like doing furniture work with woodwork. When you cut a piece of wood, you never know what the grain is going to look like until the finished product. And that in particular has a different grain pattern. And every time you cut it between the two colors, it doesn't matter what you do. Almost every piece is a unique piece.
So tell us about your process from when you think of a piece or you see it in your head. How do you go about finding the materials that you need to create that piece?
Well, if you're referring to different types of stone.
Mhm.
Early on, I used to order a lot of turquoise and all from a few suppliers out west. But in years' times, I've actually started doing more trading with people, such as yourself. If you're traveling and you go to somewhere and you find a stone and say, you know what, this is unique to myself, and you get it, you bring it home, you might have it for 10 years. You run across somebody like me and you say, you know what, I like what you're doing. I thought about getting something made from that. What can you do, Brian? And I'll say, you know what, let's come up with something. And you and I'll talk, and it may be a huge piece. For an example, here's a piece of petrified wood. I came across this from a friend, a friend in our tribe, and he says, "Look, man, this is petrified wood. What can you do with it?" Well, I started working with it, and I produced a bracelet. I've actually made a bolo tie. Now, this bolo tie, a lot of people look at it and go, "This is not wood," but it is, and it's black. But the reason why they don't know is because the piece I just showed you a while ago, when it was cut, the core of the tree was black. So this came from the center of that core of that tree. So, in other words, and here's another piece when you mix the two, the brown and the black of that, and it's just something that you have to. I'm not going to say have an eye for it, but it's something that I do, and I'm always looking. And I'm sorry, I'm getting off track. Getting back to what you asked me about getting materials, and I use that petrified wood for an example. When I saw that, we worked out a trade, and basically they wanted something made, and I ended up with the rest of it. Now I couldn't buy that from a supplier or someone that I didn't know, but this came from a person that I knew, and it worked out well. And I ended up with excess material to keep working with. And the same thing goes with other stones, wampum. Of course, I don't go to the coast and collect them myself, but I do have people that I have contacts with, and they know what I do with it. And it's a good trade, and it gives me materials to work with. So I mean, I don't know if that answers your question or not, but that's sort of how I get most of the things that I have.
And how did you learn to work with silver in particular?
Well, like I said before, I was introduced to it. The person that actually showed me how to do it, he no longer does it anymore, and I don't know what it is about what I do or anything, but I think it's something that was meant to be. The creator saw fit that I was the one to keep on doing this, and I kept, I just been doing my job. I'm just doing what the gift that was given to me.
And along with that, what's one of the most challenging aspects of working with silver that you've come across?
The most challenging one was in the beginning when I first started doing silver. In other words, I remember as being a teenager, working from home, and my dad, sometimes we'd be at home and we'd have a leak under the house. And I was old enough to understand what I had to do. And he'd say, "Look, you know what? You're old enough. Let's see if you can do it." And I would go under the house with a torch and some solder and try to fix that copper leak. And of course, when you're using hot heat and a lot of solder, the main objective is to get it hot enough and use a lot of solder to make sure it doesn't leak. Well, when you're doing silver, it's kind of the opposite. You still have to use a lot of heat, but you want to use the minimal amount of solder possible to get your metals to connect, to put them together. And that was one of the hardest things I had to learn, because when you start out, there are different levels of solder. In other words, it takes more heat for something that's hard, and you have to work in steps. In other words, when you start out with a piece, if you use a soft solder in the beginning, by the time you finish up with the piece and you ended up using hard solder, you have to get it a whole lot hotter. So all the previous work you've done with your solder will melt away. So you have to start out with the hard first and work your way down to where when you finish, you're using the very easy solder that melts.
Can you show us some of the pieces you have today and tell us how you created them and some of the stories behind them?
Sure. Now I have one here. I'm not sure how the camera's going to pick it up. I'm going to try to walk through it. But basically, this was something that gives you an idea. In other words, here you have a sheet of silver. And I had in my mind, I said, you know what? I need to have something to talk about. I can talk all day, but if I don't have anything to show, it doesn't matter. But basically, you have your silver wire, silver sheet, and your bezel. And the bezel is the piece that goes around the stone. Now, what you do is you take all of those, and when you put those together and solder them, you solder your wire in place. And I have here, it's notched out for the bezel to fit there. And, of course, if you don't do that, you have to file it some type of way. And then your stone fits in it. Okay. Now, and then when you go from that point, this is the finished product. So I don't know if that helps or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just show us some of the pieces you have on the table there.
Okay.
Like the bracelets and necklaces. I see one that has a pink stone. Is that made with shell?
Yes, it is. Now this is the pink. Actually, is the pink conch shell, and like I said before, this is something that's unique in itself, and it's done well. I'm actually. It works a little. As a matter of fact, here's something I can say. When you're working with the conch shell, the pink conch shell. Now, when I said before, when we're working with wampum, the first thing I told you was you have to grind the calcium off here to get to what you want to see, the color you're looking for. Now, that's grinding everything off. When you're working with the conch shell, the color is skin deep. So the more you cut on it, it's white on the inside. So you have to be careful. It's a different cutting process. You're actually cutting the shapes and trying to reduce the amount of what you're trying to achieve, because the more you grind on it, the more your color goes away. So you have to preserve it a little bit more. That's one of the things that's a little bit challenging when you're working with the things as far as shells and that type of thing, But another item too is one of the different ones is someone came to me and had an idea. They like my turtles that I do a lot. I produce a lot of turtles. I don't have but a few here to talk about, but they wanted a hummingbird and want to know if I could use copper. And I said, you know what? I think I can. And that's been a popular piece because a lot of people like that. And one of the processes of showing that is, you're mixing two metals. You're mixing silver and copper together. And when you do that, you come up with something that's amazing. It's unique in itself. And one of the processes here is you start out with a ring. You start out with the center of it. Okay. Once you cut it out, you have to cut your hummingbird out. It's just a rough cut. It's not finished. And that would go on top, right on, just like that. And if you want to make a turtle out of that, what you would do is you would take the cutting pieces. I don't know how good the camera's picking this up, but basically these are feet, and you decorate it as you need. You can turn it into a little small baby turtle. You can make a medium-sized turtle or a big fat turtle. It depends on what's on your mind. But a lot of times, most of my best pieces come from individuals, and they know what they want, and they tell me. And we try to work on something. But the main thing is you have to have flexibility. As an artist, you have to have your own flair about it too, because if the person is too detailed about it and you can't follow them with that, if they don't give you flexibility to be creative with it, it doesn't come out well, but you have to keep that person in mind when you're doing that because you're making it for them.
Would you say your work is more traditional or contemporary?
I would say a little of both. Normally, in the beginning when I first started, it was trying to more traditional, but I've learned how to mix both. And you can do both, but to me, it's like when you mix the two together, you have traditional in mind, but you're also trying to do something upbeat, contemporary that kind of fits in today's society. But normally, I can do both.
And what is the inspiration behind your designs? Do you use any traditional symbols, motifs, patterns, or materials in your work?
Well,
like the turtle, for instance, is that a traditional symbol?
Yeah, turtles, I like using two main things for turtles to give you an idea. and that's fertility and longevity. In other words, turtles can live to be over, especially sea turtles, can be live to over 100 years old, and at that age, they're still having babies, and that's something as us as humans, we can't do. I've even met people and known people who have turtles as pets, or they care for the turtles. And if the turtle is a certain age, and if the person is older, like up in age, they actually have to put things in place in their will for someone to take care of that animal, because that animal will outlive them.
How is the Haliwa Saponi culture reflected in your work?
Um, that's a good question. I'm not going to say it's reflected in my work as much as, well, I mean, let me take that back. I'm sorry. We're Eastern Woodland, and early on when I first started doing silver, a lot of my work had things that you would see when you would walk out into the wilderness. In other words, if you were to walk out into the woods and see uh, grapevines or wild grapevines, I used to have vines and leaves in some of my work. Now I don't have anything like that here at the moment. Sometimes I will do that type of work if someone specifies they want that. But usually I try to work with what I'm feeling at the moment, what's coming to me, what's in my mind, what did I wake up with this morning, what's bothering me at the moment, what do I need to get out of my head to proceed, because I might be here working on this piece and I may have wanted to make it a bracelet, a pendant, and if it's not speaking to me, I'll end up putting it down and leaving it. And I will leave it right there on my benches while I'm working on other things. And I'm waiting for it to speak to me. I've started it, but it's not telling me what it wants to be. And usually it'll sit there for a week. It might sit there for a year. I've had pieces that sit there for a year. And usually when it comes to me and I actually start working on it, it'll actually be an award-winning piece because I took the time to let it speak to me. So that's it's not saying that it's coming from our tribe, but it's mainly something that's just boiling, getting aging with time, I guess, and becoming a better piece or a better product.
Have you ever had a stone or a piece of material that you wanted to do something with, like say maybe you started a bracelet, but then while you were creating it, you decided, no, this is meant to be a necklace. So have you ever had to stop in the middle of a process to switch what it's meant to be? Has that ever happened?
No, I've never had to stop, but I've had issues where you're starting something. And just for an example, you draw something out. I've had instances with, I'm gonna use an example. Here's one, a butterfly. I wanted to make a butterfly. I'm not sure exactly what it's called, but it's a hairpiece that goes around and fits on a woman's hair and will have a spike through it, and it was supposed to curve around and have a spike through it. But guess what? When I started making that piece, I drew it out, had a nice design. I started on it and I'm working on it, trying to get it. And the more I worked on it to get it to work, it was going the opposite way. It did not want to be a hairpiece. It was like, every time I would pick it up and or I would solder something in place or I'd bend something, it wouldn't work if I went the opposite way. In other words, instead of it being a butterfly to where it went around something, it ended up being a butterfly as a pendant and it opened up. So it's kind of like I was in the right area, but you have to have enough flexibility and not push it, because if I had pushed the issue and made it the way that I was wanting to initially do it, it probably wouldn't have turned out to be a good piece. So I just went with the flow, and I didn't necessarily have to stop, but I would have to check myself every once in a while and go, you know what, this is not working like I wanted it to. It's like, I think I got to change up. So that's what I did. I just kind of kept working and it just ended up being what it was going to be.
What is your favorite kind of jewelry to make? Do you have a favorite piece? Bracelet or necklace or earrings or?
I like making something to where, and it's not, and most people that know me, it's not that I want recognition for anything, but I like to make something that I want to make, but also get the enjoyment of people coming up and going, "Oh, you did that." I'm like, "Well, okay, yeah." I like to seeing responses from people. It's not that I'm trying to be, I want to make something that makes everyone jump for joy. It's not that. But when you're working something and it's coming from your heart and you're doing it, it makes you feel good when people follow their heart to give you, to tell you what they think about it, you know. So that makes a difference too.
And you mentioned the butterfly piece you did and the gem that you had to put aside to decide what it was meant to be. What are some other challenges you've had in jewelry making?
One of the challenges, now here's one my wife will like. When I first started doing jewelry, I used to make that comment to people when they would go and say, "Oh, Brian, that's a beautiful bracelet," or "That's nice," you know. And I'd tell them, "Oh, that's nice," you know. And they say, "Are you doing well with it? Are you paying your bills? Are you making money with it?" And I says, "You know what? To me, it doesn't matter whether I'm making money or not. All I know is I'm doing what I do. I like doing it. And of course, I'll heal the other end of it when the person leaves. My wife will go, you know what? I like what you're saying." She said, "But you ain't paying the bills. You know, you you need to tighten up and say something different." Cause she says, "Not that it's not just about the money. I understand that." She said, "But you got a lot of money tied up in here, a lot of investment, a lot of your time into it. And you shouldn't just tell people not to buy it, you know." And I'm not telling anyone not to buy it. It's just I've had situations where I'd make a piece, in other words, something made for a woman. And I'm gonna give you an example. I'll make it, and I've told my wife many a times. I said, "You know what? That's a nice piece." She said, "Is it?" I said, "Yep." Guess what? She said, "What?" "I don't know if I want to sell it or not. I hate to show it to anybody. They might want it, and then I'm stuck. I don't have it anymore, you know." But you understand what I mean? It's like, you know, you have to have just follow your heart and just see how things go and try to be creative with what you have and use the gift that God gave you and just keep going with it.
Can you tell us about the bracelet in the middle of your table with the large?
This one?
Yeah.
Okay. Now this stone is called Wild Horse. Um, I'm not sure of where it originated from, but I'm thinking it's Arizona. I got this through a family member who I told them what I was looking for, and they sent it to me. Well, this actually, if you can look at it real closely on camera, I don't know if it's picking it up or not, but basically this stone was cut from this. And it's a unique piece because a lot of the times when I get big stones like this, I like cutting smaller pieces. You know, you can make smaller, delicate pieces like this. But the thing of it is, when you make this small, you don't know what you're going to get because you don't know if you're going to get something one color dark, if you're going to get it out of the white section. You know what I mean? If you cut it so small, you're not going to get the whole color um, aspect of the stone. So usually when I cut something like this that has all these nice, pretty colors in it, I'll try to make something as big as I can out of it. And this is one of the pieces that came from that. And to give you more information on this, I had a good friend of mine. She's deceased now. She started out as a customer. She ended up being a good friend. And I did not know when she was buying a lot of my work, she had gotten to the point where she says, "Brian, where are you going next?" And I'd tell her, she says, "Well, I can't make it, but I'm going to tell you what I want you to do." And I'd say, "What?" "I want to see your work before you go." I'm like, "Okay." She was the type of person that she wanted to see a lot of the stuff, the nice pieces that I had before I went to wherever I was going. She wanted top pick. Well, I was sad to hear of her death, but I was also honored to find out what happened afterwards. And that was, I was in her will. Do you know she willed back the majority of all my jewelry back to me?
Oh, wow.
Now, this is one of the pieces. It was a nice piece. I hated to see it go when it went, but it's funny how it came back to me. So, like I said, a lot of the pieces like this do have some meaning, you know. Now, this piece is not for sale. This is a showpiece. This is a piece that's I can't talk about it or show it if I leave it at home.
Mm-hmm.
So usually when I go somewhere, I'll have this particular one and I will talk about it.
And how about the piece that's on the front? There's some turquoise bracelets, and then there's I'm sorry, I can't see it from here, but a necklace. Is that a necklace?
This one?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Tell us about that.
Now I'm going to call this I'm going to say a combination piece because when I was younger, yes, I do know how to do beadwork. And the stitch on the necklace here is called peyote. Now, because I'm so busy doing silver now, I'm not sure how good my beadwork would do now because it's been a while. But the thing of it is, I still know how to do it. I know I can, but I'm better doing what I know I'm good for, and that's doing silver. So I made a few pieces, and this particular necklace came from another artist in our community from our tribe named Matthew Richardson. And he did such a good job on doing the necklaces that I commissioned him to make me a few, and I made the pendants to go with them. So that's another piece that uh, it's a nice piece, and that's another one of my turtles. This one has a feather in it with some black onyx to match.
And what's one of your most favorite pieces that you've made? If you can say such a thing.
One of my most favorite pieces. One of my most favorite pieces is I don't have it anymore. It was actually a bolo tie, and it was made out of turquoise, and it was one of my first pieces. The first piece I had ever entered into a juried art show, and that particular piece was, like I said, it was about this big, and all of the shapes on the back of the turtle were turquoise. They were cut individually to match the back of the turtle, and also the head was turquoise, the feet and the leg, all the legs were turquoise, including the tail. And when it came down to the bottom, even I had two baby turtles on the bottom. Now, when I made that, I didn't specifically make it for myself. I was, I had something in mind. I had a project in my head, and I was working on other things. And it was like everything I picked up to work on, this kept popping in my head. And I'm like, wait a minute, I can't work on these because this keeps coming in my head. It's like, I'm sitting here with my hands on something, and the only thing I'm seeing is this turtle. So I said, man, okay. So I went ahead and just made it. I put it in the art show and took first place art competition. Now, once I realized what I had, no one purchased it because I think at that time it was priced. I think I had a price tag of I don't know, $700-800 on that piece. And of course, today I knew I was way off. If I had to make another one like that, you're probably looking at $2,500. But the thing of it is, I decided to keep it. After a short period of time, when I realized it was a nice piece, it was doing what it was supposed to do, it was being seen, I decided I was going to keep it. But I wanted to show it off. So the next time we went somewhere, I jacked the price up, $200 or $300. I'm like, well, people already think it's expensive now. They're not going to buy it because it costs more. Man, the first person that came around was one of my buddies, and guess what he said? You know what? I want it. And he paid the full price. And I'm thinking, oh man, what in the world did I do? And I'm sick about it now because I talked to him last night. And I told him about that. I said, you know what? If I see you again and lay my hands on that, you better have a box of tissue because I'm probably going to cry. I said, because I had made my mind up to keep it. So now, just like I said about this piece here, it has a tag on it, but the tag says NFS, not for sale. So I've learned, that was a hard lesson to learn. I'm without one of my favorite pieces. And that's something I had to live with.
Let's see. Can you tell us any stories about people that you've made jewelry for?
Let me think for a minute. Yeah, I can tell you about my wife. I'll try to surprise, most like most men, they try to surprise the wives, for Christmas, birthdays, anniversaries. I'm gonna give you two stories on my wife, and she's gonna probably get me, but guess what? I'm here and she's not. So guess what? I thought I was gonna surprise her one time, and I made a black onyx turtle pendant. I'm thinking, all right, I'm out here working, and she comes out every once in a while. I got to slide to the side so she doesn't see what I'm working on, and I'm working on something else. I did what I could, man. She was always watching, and I couldn't quite finish it. Wrapped it up, gave it to her for Christmas. And you know what she says? She said, "Oh, that's pretty. I like that." I said, "Good." And this was Christmas Eve. We opened gifts on Christmas Eve. I said, "You gonna wear it tomorrow?" No. I said, "What do you mean you're not gonna wear it?" "I'm not wearing it yet." I said, "What do you mean you're not gonna wear it yet?" She says, "I'm waiting for the whole set." I'm thinking, oh man. She said, I'm not gonna wear it until I get earrings, a ring, and a bracelet to match. And once I get that, I'll wear it. I said, good gracious. Do you know it took a whole year for her to get that set? you know. Now, another thing that happened was um, I had given her a set for our anniversary. Now, a friend of mine had given me a little stone, and it was called New Landers. Now, I don't have any of that with me at the moment, but I took that little stone, came home, I cut it up, showed her the pieces, right? She didn't know they were for her. And she went from, what in the world about what, that's an ugly little rock, to, ooh, what is that? Right? Well, do you know, I made the whole set for her, gave it to her on her anniversary, and she was surprised. And our anniversary is in October. It was a time of year when early mornings are a little cool. So she gets to work and she's showing her coworkers her jewelry. She said, "Oh, look at my ring I have." And they said, "Oh, that's nice. Oh, you got a necklace to match?" "Yeah." "Oh, you got earrings too?" She said, "Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, by the way, he gave me a bracelet too." And she slides her arm up, her sleeve, and the bracelet's gone. And she says, "Where's my bracelet?" So she walks back to her office, looks around in the floor, looks in her pocketbook. She can't find her bracelet. She said, "Hold on a minute." She walks out to the truck, looks on the ground, looks around, looks inside, under the seat. She can't find it. She went back in and told her coworkers, "Look, y'all, I'll be back in a minute. I got to go find this bracelet. Brian's going to kill me." I'm thinking, nah, I ain't going to do all that. But so anyway, she goes home. And as she's pulling up to the driveway, she sees something flickering at the driveway. So no one was coming or anything. She gets out and looks, and there was her bracelet in the driveway. And she doesn't know, because it was right on the edge of the driveway. She doesn't know if she lost it when she put my son on the school bus that morning and it fell off, or if it fell off when she was pulling her sleeve up or anything, and she doesn't know if she ran over it or the bus ran over it, but it squished it like a pancake. Now, she called me. She was all upset, telling me about it when I was at work. And I told her, "So don't worry about it. I'll come home and see what I have to do." Well, it was in bad shape. The bracelet was basically unfixable because it was crushed. But the stone was crushed, had several cracks in it. But I was able to take one stone, it was a solid stone, and salvage 3 small stones out of it. So what I had to do, I had some work to do. I had to take the whole setting off of the bracelet, the whole setting itself. I dismantled I'm sorry, not the bracelet, her ring. This was her ring. Dismantled her ring. I took that stone and the setting off, made a new bracelet, and put that setting on the bracelet. The 3 small stones, I had to make a brand new setting, and I made a new setting and made her a ring with 3 smaller stones in it. So I was able to salvage her anniversary gift.
That brings up another question. And are there other pieces that you've had to repair for people?
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Any more interesting stories you can share there? Although the bracelet getting run over is a pretty top-notch story there.
Well, I've had a few pieces. Well, I've had one piece. I'm not going to say what it was or who it was, because I don't know if the person wanted me to share this or not. But this item came to me. The person lost it. They were at a powwow, and when they left all they left one item of importance on top of the vehicle. This was on a Friday night. They left, and we were on the grounds. Someone came to me and said, "Look, Brian, I saw this in the road. I didn't know what it was. I know it was important, but I'll tell you what it was. It was a silver crown. Okay, the silver crown was had fell off the vehicle, and someone had like mashed it, like it had crashed. It wasn't real bad, but it was bad. And they came to me and said, "Man, I don't know if you can fix it or not," but I said, "I don't know." I said, "Do you know who it is?" I said, "You know what? I know who the person is. I'll keep it." And so the next morning, we got word out to them. They came by and told me that they made a mistake, wanted to know if I could fix it. I said, you know what? I tell you what I'm gonna do. I said, I'll see what I can do. Everything I did, you know what I did? I had a few repairs to do for people on site. I actually stopped working on everything else, and I wanted to work on this crown. The crown had a big crease in it. It had a big fold in it, you know. And keep in mind, I'm not at home in my shop. I'm out with a table like this, with a few tools, hand tools and all, trying to work on something that's of importance. And do you know I actually fixed that to where they could wear it again, and I actually did. I mean, they thought I did a good job. I still was kind of wishy-washy about it because I knew I could have done better at home in different circumstances. But guess what? That turned out to be a pretty challenging piece that took me pretty much a good half a day just to straighten it out, just to get it to where it was, you know, to be what it was supposed to be, a crown to be worn.
Well, we're about ready to wrap up. Do you have any final comments you'd like to make?
All I can say is I'm just going to keep doing what I do, and if anyone thinks that I can help them out by doing anything, or if they have an idea, you know, just get in touch with me the best you can, and I'll see what I can do. And I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, and until I can't do it anymore.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Mr. Lynch.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you all so much for joining us. There are many other events to join and watch. Just go to the schedule at nc-aihc.com. Thank you.